What up, Remnants? I got 1020 with us, and we are going to hear a little bit about his album, hear a little bit about who he is as a person, a man of God, and we're going to go from there. So wherever the spirit takes us, that's what we're going to do. So what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Can't complain. Blessed.
Awesome. Awesome. So first things first, how did you get your name 1020? How'd you come across that?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. So it dates back to when I wrote my first spoken word. So what happened was I volunteered. I was going to share my testimony at a big event. And that night, somebody had just shown me a spoken word video. You know the Why I Hate Religion But Love Jesus? That
Yes.
video? It
Yep.
like blew up. Yeah, someone showed it to me. I thought it was super powerful. And so I was up late thinking like, man, I'm gonna share my testimony. What am I gonna say? A thought came in my head, what if you did spoken word? And I was like, yeah, right. Like, no way. And then it was as if God like started putting lines in my head. And I felt like a burning in my chest and a voice telling me to get up and write it. So I got up, wrote it in the middle of the night, and then ended up performing it. And yeah, it was a very powerful experience. And so fast forward, when I started making more spoken word, more music, and started thinking of a name, um, I stumbled across Matthew 10:20, and that says, "It will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of the Father speaking through you." And
Mm.
so, the other part of the story is everyone calls me JT. Those are my initials, and J and T are the 10th and 20th letter in the alphabet.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a perfect thing. So that's how it came.
That's a really cool coincidence. I mean, I don't really believe in coincidences like that,
Right,
but
right.
that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so you've kept 1020 the whole time then?
Yeah, well, at first I was just doing spoken word and I did some videos in college and just put them out under my regular name. And I was like, I had no social media or anything. So I
Mm.
would like make a video and my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, she
Okay.
would post it. She would just put it on her Facebook and then like some of the stuff like kind of blew up around my college, but I
Okay.
didn't have any. I had no social media, no anything. So I was just doing it, and then after a couple of years, um, started rapping and was like didn't know what to go by, and then it just kind of came to be, and so I stuck with it through everything I've dropped.
All right. Cool, cool. So do you think you would have been in like a different position if you would have had your socials all ready to go at that point, or about the
Yeah.
same?
No, I think it would be different because like it doesn't seem like a lot, but like I put the video out with no social media, and in like 3 days it got like 2,000 views, which isn't huge, but I was at college with like 3,000 people, so it was
Oh,
like it
everybody
like
knew you.
yeah. So then everyone that saw me in the halls or saw me anywhere was like, oh, what's up? You're that dude. And then I spoke, like, I did spoken word in our chapel in front of like 1,500 people, like 3 times.
Okay.
So so basically, it would have been ideal in that moment, but I wasn't really on that. Like, that's not why I started.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to, like, I just felt like God gave me something to say, and I was just trying to say it. And then eventually, I did a show like a year and a half ago, and a guy came up to me after. He's like, "Hey, what's your Instagram? I want to follow you." And I was like, "Man, I don't have one." He was like, he was like, "Bro, why not?" Like, and it just hit me like, you know, I finally started Instagram like a year and a half ago. Before that, I started Facebook when I dropped my first EP. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't regret it, but it's kind of like it could be different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and you never know. Sometimes it's missed opportunities, sometimes it's exactly what needed to happen because you don't want to be that guy who's delivering a message in church and at the very end, and follow me on IG at, like, you just killed the momentum, dude. So,
Yeah,
um,
no doubt.
yeah, but it is kind of is. So, like, going into your album, the woman speaking, is that your wife?
It's actually not my wife just because I wanted it to be like a discreet voice.
Okay.
Because the people who know me, they would know like instantly it's just my wife. So
Okay.
it was a woman in our church who she like likes my music, and I was like, hey, I felt like her voice kind of was perfect. So I
Okay.
asked her, hey, do you want to do this? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah,
Cool. Cool. Yeah, that was actually one of my questions. I was like, all right, so who spoke on your album? Story of that. Now the very first you start off about the doctor's diagnosis. Is
yeah.
that the actual call that you got, or is that a reenactment?
To keep it 100, it's not the actual call.
Mm.
Um, it was done by one of my mentors who he just he's always like been super supportive of me. He really got me into doing ministry, and yeah, it was a cool way kind of for him to be a part of what I was doing. I just had lunch with him today and gave him a CD. He's coaching basketball. He's gonna have me out to rap and speak for his team. So it's like I tried to make everything like kind of within my circle, you know.
Hmm.
So
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I really liked how you drew people in with that. And you had me. I thought it was the real one because it bleeped out the doctor's name. I'm like, "Oh, what?" So you did a good job with that. And then my biggest complaint of the Christian music on the radio is that it's so bland. Yes, it's
yeah,
food, but it's so bland. Are you gonna really love to eat it up, or you just kind of listen to it and when it's going okay? Nobody goes over to a house that has bland food. No one's like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to go over there."
right.
And so it's really, we listen to it because that's the only option on the radio. Uh, and even some Christian comedians did skits about it of a
Yeah,
musician wants to be that focal piece, wants to dive into some deep issues and wants to help people with a specific thing,
yeah,
and the people the record labels are like, nah, you can do something bland. Just do something bland because that
Yeah,
sells to
yeah,
everyone. And
I've seen that.
yeah, and so like what I really liked about your intro was that it just drew it in. I was like, all right, so who is this guy? What would I do in that situation? And then, all right, is he doing the same things that I think I would do in that situation? And it really drew in a lot of kind of existential questions.
Yeah,
I really like that.
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So making an album is kind of like, I mean, we're two guys here, so it's kind of hard to have this analogy, but kind of like making a baby. You know, there's like that initial thought of like it should happen, and then there's like some
Yeah,
growing pains, and there's excitement, there's some sickness, there's some um, uh, development, and then you finish it, and it's just kind of out there. It's done. It's
yeah,
ready to do work and ready to be judged. Um, so can you kind of go through that process of like what inspired you to make this album, some of the growing pains through it, and then what you're excited the most about it?
yeah, yeah. So basically, it's a super long story because it's like my whole life, but I'm gonna try and consolidate that. So basically, like growing up, I really succeeded in sports. That was like my thing. And that was where I made all my friends. That was where I built an identity for myself. And that became to really be like how I define myself. And I saw myself, so my dad and my grandpa were D1 athletes.
Hmm.
And that was where I saw myself, when I was younger. And then, and like, it was weird. So I joined football. I rejoined football in eighth grade. And my first year, I really dominated on the field and like was scoring every game. And then throughout high school, it was like I, I ceased to like improve at the rate of my friends. All of
Hmm.
a sudden people kept getting better and better, and I wasn't. And it was a real difficult, confusing time for me because when I was a senior, football was my whole identity, and then I got beat out of my starting position by a junior, and it was like I felt it sounds petty, like because people go through way harder things, but like I felt real lost, like didn't know who I was, and that's when like Christ really came into my life in my senior year of high school, and I started to see like that I was a child of God, and that started to find my identity there, and kind of my whole life changed. But then, like physically, it continued. Like I grew up playing hockey. I went out one day to skate, and I couldn't skate. Like I could barely do it. And then I grew up like water skiing on one ski, and I went out there to do it. I couldn't get up. So finally, I went to a doctor because I was like, man, I don't feel right. I can't do this stuff. And they end up telling me like that I have this rare condition. It's called Friedrich's ataxia. It's super rare, and it basically affects your physical abilities over time. Like it makes it harder to balance, to coordinate movement, to speak. And they told me like I'll most likely end up in a wheelchair in like, they don't know, it could be 5 years, 10 years. And I'm 25 now. I was 24 at the time. And it was really hard news to get, you know what I'm saying?
Because this
Because,
is the recent thing. So basically, like you've
yeah,
just found out, then you decide to make the album and go
yeah.
forward.
Well, yeah, I found out, and for a while, like, I went through a really just difficult season, you know? It was like, man, like, I felt like I thought about giving up music, just felt like, honestly, like I said in the album, felt like just giving up on life in general. Like, it
Hmm.
was so hard some days to even find motivation to just get out of bed and just live my life. And basically, ended up through those really hard times, I wrote some of the songs, the uh, the first and second actual song on the album, and I wrote it, and I didn't even want to record it, you know, because it was like, this is so vulnerable and raw and real. Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to make this. I don't want to put it out. I don't want people to hear it. And then I came to realize, like, once I recorded those songs and like let it all out of me, it was like I found so much freedom, and I realized like everything in my life, like God has used. So even before I knew I had this condition, like God was using it, you know, because instead of me chasing my dreams with sports, like I got into doing ministry, coaching, doing spoken word, doing music, like, and so I realized like no matter what happens, God's gonna use me, and that allowed me to then transition and make songs like the theme song of the album is Fire Makes Gold, and it
Hmm.
says pressure makes diamonds and fire makes gold. Like, the most difficult, intense pressure makes like the most durable, beautiful thing in the world, pretty much a diamond. And I realized like everything I go through, it just is making me like who God made me to be. So all that to say, like, I just I just basically let everything out into music, and I recorded it and mixed it and mastered it all by myself. Um, I didn't really want to, like, I didn't even show my wife some of the songs until like I was gonna drop the album, and I was like, hey, you need to hear this before the world, because like it's just so vulnerable and real. So I had the album done for like 9 months, and
Oh
just,
wow.
yeah, I just sat on it because I just didn't feel ready to put it out. But as of like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, I just have been more open and sharing my story and sharing like, yeah, I do have this condition, and um have been doing some speaking and things at different churches and whatever, and just felt like I came to a place of like, all right, I'm personally ready to actually put this out. And so I guess you
Hmm.
could say, yeah, the idea, the growing pains, like all of it was real and was in there. And then finally, I just I was like, it's time. I put it out, and it's been awesome. Like the feedback I've gotten, um, people just really showing love. I had an album release concert. I live in Minneapolis where there was a huge snowstorm the night of my concert, and a lot of people still came out and bought CDs and just really showed love. And I've been super blessed by that. And I've kind of got to a point of like, when you first start, everyone wants to blow up and go on world tour, and
Mm-hmm.
and to me, I've got to a point of like, you know what, like my brother, sister, niece, mom, dad, and all these people, they're gonna hear my music, and I don't care if I reach a million people or if I reach 10 people, but I know like I want to be faithful in whatever platform I have, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my people, my family and stuff, are not believers, and it's like I just, yeah, it's almost like even if 1,000 people never hear my album, um, to know that the people close to me who need to hear it are hearing it, that's like that that's enough for me. And if it does beyond that, that's cool too. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely does. It definitely does. Um, it's in everything in marketing, you got to learn or figure out, all right, who's my audience? And, if your audience is the people closest to you, go for it. Just do the best you can. If your audience is people that will never meet you, go for it. Do it the best you can.
Yeah.
It's whatever you choose it to be, and then also what God chooses it to be. Because there's
Right.
sometimes I wasn't trying to do this, but all right, God. And I really like what you said about how it was just so raw and real, and it hit me because our little tagline for Rap Remnant is righteous, authentic, and raw, and so we push righteousness and authentic because only you can rap about what you rapped about on this album. If I
Yeah.
tried to mimic it, it just wouldn't be it. There's just
Right.
I haven't lived through it. And then it's raw. It's you did everything by yourself, so that's pretty cool. There's a lot of people that don't have the talent. They're really good at one thing. You've had to work on all of it, and it's like a raw diamond.
Yeah.
It's valuable, but you gotta refine it a little bit more to make it even more valuable, and that will
Right.
that will occur. That will um, takes a little time.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done two EPs and a mixtape, and I got sick of, oh, I'm trying to book the studio, and then, oh, I'm waiting for the engineer, and then I gotta pay the engineer, and then they send it back to you, and when you write it, you picture it in your mind, you know,
Hmm.
and then if somebody else is trying to mix it, it can be hard to like you can't fully communicate what you hear in your mind.
Hmm.
So I finally pulled the trigger and was like, you know what? I'm gonna build the studio. I'm gonna get Pro Tools. I'm just gonna learn. And yeah, a guy sat down with me and showed me for like 20 minutes the bare bones of how to use Pro Tools. And then I just played around, went on YouTube, went on
Hmm.
Google and just made it happen.
There you go. That's that hustler spirit, man. And you talk about that in the album too. There's a song of just going to get it. And
Yeah.
you got a lot of stuff on here. There's the deep stuff, but then there's also the kind of the grinding music is what I like to say.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like people that know me, they know I'm serious, like I have a serious side,
Hmm.
a deep side, but they know I like to joke and play. And so when I say like I really put myself into the project, it's all intentional. Like some of it is deep, real, serious, and some of it is just fun, like good, clean fun. We're talking about grinding, talking about, but even like one of your questions, everything does have a hidden meaning,
Hmm.
because like there's a song and it's called Run It Up, Run It Up. And yeah, it sounds like I'm not saying much, it sounds like, oh, what's he really talking about? But it's based on Colossians, where it says, Jesus made a public spectacle of Satan on the cross. So it's basically like he ran the score up on Satan, and that's what it is based off. So
Hmm.
yeah, like to have fun with it and be have more meaning at the same time.
Definitely. Definitely. This is definitely some cruising music, something that you can listen to passively or, sit just to think about whatever you want to do. And kind of touch on what you said is when you were saying in high school, how your identity was your position on your sports team. And when you got beat out, you kind of had an identity crisis. And like in the grand scheme of the whole world, yeah, it is small, but when you base your identity into something small like that and it changes, then you have to go find a new identity. And it reminded me of what a youth pastor said to me once that he had this nice truck and he played the drums, and one day someone slashed his tires on his truck. He just lived in a college town and people just did stupid stuff. And so like he didn't have his truck. So and then um he got transferred where they already had a drummer. So the guy that he couldn't be the drummer. So
Mm,
here he was, the guy who did drums and the guy with the truck in a new environment without a truck and without the drums. And so he really had to figure out what to do. And in his story and in yours, he found his identity in Jesus Christ, and in
yeah,
that we can't be shaken. If we have our identity rooted in our faith, our identity can't be shaken because nobody can take our faith from us. Only we can give it up. And I saw that theme in your music, and even more now as we talked. And it's really inspiring and really cool to see people doing that and getting closer to Christ, one through just everyday life, like your football story, but then also through a deep challenge like your diagnosis, and then three, how to deal with life.
yeah,
You could have just laid in bed. You're like, well, it's gonna hit me eventually. Might as well get used to sitting forever. And
right.
just, but that's not what you're doing, and that's really impressive. And I hope everyone watching this that they get some inspiration to, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what's going on, you can rise above it and you can do what God wants you to do.
Yeah, yeah. I coach football and basketball now, and I lead a mentorship program in Minneapolis with a lot of the teens that I coach. And a consistent theme that I see is so many people focus on everything they can't control, but
Mm,
they don't focus on. So like kids come to me, like, hey, put me in the game, put me in the game. I want to go in the game, and then if I don't, then you're mad at me. But really, it's like, but what have you been doing that you can control that um, will get me to want to put you in the game? And that's like a small example, but it's kind of what hit me is like, yeah, I can't control what I was born with, but what can I control? Like how can I make the most of my situation? Like right now, I get up every day at 5:30 and go to the gym and do exercises to try and A, be in good shape, and B, that help my condition. So, and then I listen to the audio Bible while I'm doing it.
mm,
So it's like I stopped thinking about the negative and thinking about all the stuff I can't control. And that's really what I want to encourage people. Like, what can you do? Like, and the thing that's hit me lately is the idea that your trials they're not meant to break you, but they're meant to make you. So it's like
mm,
people they go through a trial and then they could give up or use it as an excuse like, oh, I can't succeed because this happened to me, or oh, I can't minister because of my past, or and it's like, no, really what you went through is, or what you're going through or will go through is meant to shape you and eventually be like a platform, you know? So that's kind of like just more that's been on my heart and more behind the actual album is like that mentality.
yeah, and that's pretty cool. I mean, I used to run a mentorship program, but that was with middle schoolers and elementary schoolers, so they had kind of some different issues that they were dealing with. But
Right?
yeah, we might talk about that sometime. But as we
Yeah.
kind of wrap up, man, anything else you want to say? Uh,
Um, I would just say anybody who is out there struggling, whether you're struggling with depression, your identity, feeling hopeless, or family situation, whatever it may be, I want to encourage you to keep hopeful and persevere and to lean on God and to pray and to let it out because what I learned making this album is like I can't keep everything bottled up. I have to let it out, and through that you can find freedom. And yeah, go listen to the album, show your friends, tell your friends. I believe what's in there could really change someone's life and really help somebody. So appreciate you for taking the time. And yeah, that's it.
well, awesome. Now that you have some social media handles, man, what are they?
Yeah, it's at 1020 words. 1020 is spelled TEN20 and then words. 1020 words.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for your time. God bless with the promotion of this album. May it move and reach the people that God wants it to reach.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Peace out, brother.
All right. Peace. Thank you.